Welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. I'm Candace Bohannon, and today I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Brittany. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the AWS Certified AI Practitioner exam. Pretty sure I got that right. So it's one of our newest exams, and I think someone on the show just recently passed, right?
Yes, a week ago today. Actually, about this time too, I finished.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. What'd you think?
I think it was different. I did take the beta exam, so not gonna lie, didn't pass the beta exam the first try back in November, which I know you passed back in November. And I would say if you're not used to working in it day in and day out, I could really see how people are getting confused. So that's one of the reasons I really wanted us to do this topic as a way to review how to prep for this exam, because it's not like the cloud practitioner. It's like a step above the cloud practitioner, I would say, but still practitioner level. I don't know if you agree, disagree. What do you think on that one?
I don't know. Can it be like practitioner and a half or something?
Yeah.
It was. I also just took the cloud practitioner. That's the one that I just got most recently, I think. Or maybe recertified my ML. Anyways, I just did the cloud practitioner within the last month. That one was cake. There was one topic that I didn't know very well, and that's just it was about like levels of support. That's what I didn't know for cloud practitioner. I should have known that one. But this one really felt like you needed to know more than just like what is AI. Like it felt almost an associate level course. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different too for some folks, because for you do this kind of every day. For me, I like to experiment in it, and I've been utilizing it to make my day in and day out better. But I've also been on a lot of calls with some of our customers from the business side that don't touch the console and don't really get to go in there. So I think we can talk about it from both sides. So things that I say are probably more towards folks that are not in the console as much versus things that you're focusing on. You're like, yeah, we're in the console all the time.
Every day. Yeah.
So let's talk about like the reality of the expectations versus reality in pre-exam. So for those of you that don't know, Candace Bohannon is almost at her rose gold jacket.
So close. One more. Just one more.
One more exam.
Yeah.
So we all get exam jitters. We all have those things that we like practice. Some of the misconceptions that happen with like exams and things like that, anxiety, all of those fun things. So Candace, what are your pre-exam jitters that you get?
So just every time, like it doesn't even matter. Like even for this one, I'm like, oh, this is kind of my day-to-day job. This is an area that I'm pretty familiar in. Like I should be okay. Even for this one though, I was still just a little bit nervous. I tend to I just get nervous ahead of time. Not super nervous, but I just feel a little bit jittery, I guess. But I always go to a testing facility. I never take it at home. I've heard entirely too many nightmares about that. So on my way to the testing facility, I listen to my chill mix on Apple Music, keep like a low level of music kind of going on. If it's nice enough, I live in Minnesota, so this is a very big if. If it's nice enough, I like to have the windows open and just kind of air on me and things like that. And that kind of helps me calm down. But then when you get there, the check-in takes a couple of minutes. And so that always gets me. And I take a sip of my water right before I get out of the car, and I go to the bathroom right before I go in so that I don't have to think about that at all. So that's a little bit of my routine. And I think it's so weird that I still get nervous every single time. So I don't know.
But I'm polar opposite. So I've taken all of my exams at home, and I think it stemmed from starting my Amazon certification journey during COVID. But I have taken all of mine from home, but I can tell you I've had the horror stories. So my pre-exam jitters always start with, I have to take it first thing in the morning. Otherwise, I am stressed out all day long. So I am scheduling that 8 a.m. check-in or that 7 a.m. check-in. I know some of you are like, why are you getting up so early? No, I do it that way so I can get up first thing in the morning. I have 2 dogs. We go for a walk, kind of get that like jitteriness out of my system. I have anxiety. I've been dealing with it my entire life. So one of those anxiety types that I have is test anxiety. So I am allowed to have extra time But for those of you who have exam anxiety, it actually makes it worse. So I try not to look at the timers and things of that. So I go for my walk, kind of get some of that energy out. I don't have caffeine until after the exam. And I tend to try to eat a heartier breakfast. I'm not a really good breakfast person, but on exam days, I try to like sit down, and also the act of making that breakfast, it makes it a little bit easier for me. And then for any of you that know the Amy Cuddy, like
Body
speaking
language.
poses, yes, for deep breathing, I do them before I take the exam. So I am that person that I take that sip of water, I go to the bathroom, and then as I'm waiting at check-in, I'm standing with my hands on the hips. You have to stay in the screen. I'm doing the star pose, and I'm just deep breathing. Check-ins can be a little bit longer than in person. So check-in for my exam last Friday took about 15 minutes. It's super quick. But other days where I've checked in, I would say Fridays take the longest. But if you're doing like a Monday through Thursday, they don't seem to take as long to check in. It's like 5 minutes max. And that's mainly you taking pictures of things and scanning in your driver's license and them coming on and verifying that you are who you are. I do think there is a misconception with exams at homes that they are less stressful. You are in control of your Wi-Fi. You're in control of your neighbors and the people in your home making noises. So at the same time, you're not in control of them. So it's about the same level of chaos, we'll call it.
Yeah.
We'll get in later to what happened to me last Friday and why it kind of got, we'll call it a little bit chaotic for me specifically. With us getting into this, is there any question that you remember that kind of made you go, wait, what, with the AI exam before we get into our lifesavers?
I took it in November, so it's really hard for me to remember the exact questions that were on there. I remember being a little bit surprised about, I felt like there was a lot of detail that we needed to know, like knowledge bases, RAG, like some of these sort of concepts, which are important to know. I'm not saying that. And so I was just a little bit surprised about the level of detail that went into. And something that was a happy surprise to me was the responsible AI pieces that were on there. That's a big area that I'm pretty passionate about. And I think that we as AWS and we as the world need to be focused on this because it's important for what comes next in this space. So that was my happy surprise. And I think the things that kind of got me a little bit potentially were knowledge bases and agents and what is the workflow and things like that. What about you? You just took yours, so I feel like you might have a better answer there.
I think the ones that got me were the multiple answer questions. So not multiple choice, but there were quite a few of like talking about different select if we're asynchronous, synchronous, or batch. And there were quite a few that's like pick what's traditional ML versus generative AI. So essentially they count for one question, but you have to get all 3 parts correct. And that kind of throws you for a loop. So I did we'll call it wait what a couple times on the exam because I thought I would get a couple of those, but there were quite a few, more than I anticipated. But at the same time, I like those topics.
But those are tough. Like those are on all of the certs where you have to pick the multiple answers, or multiple, what did you call it? Multiple answer questions. I don't know. Yeah. Those are just tougher. And I tend to miss those, like on my practice tests, which I always take practice tests. We'll talk about that kind of stuff in a minute. I tend to miss those more than anything else because now we're trying to get 3 of them correct, but you still only get a 1 question answer point or whatever, so yeah, those are very tough every time, I think.
So for those listening, would love to know where you're listening from because we're getting ready to dive into the specifics of like what were our exam lifesavers, guides that we've used, maybe gamification. Sorry, Curtis and Jason, if you all were on live stream with us this past Wednesday or the Wednesday before, I'm not supposed to say that word, but I need to have fun while I'm learning. And kind of that, we'll call it, do you just use the white papers and exam guides? Like, what are the things that we're utilizing to do that today? I'm going to post it in the chat, but I'm also going to bring up on my screen the specific exam guide that's from AWS. And kind of talk through just a little bit about this before we jump into those survival items. So for those of you that don't know this exam or haven't started your journey yet, it is an exam that is 90 minutes and classified as the foundational. 65 questions. In those 65 questions, you'll have a variety of multiple choice and those multiple answer questions where you're selecting 2, 3, or filling out 3 different separate questions within there. It is normally $100, but we'll talk about later how you can get a discount on that $100. And the roles that can take this exam are folks that are utilizing AI/ML, or maybe our business analyst, IT support, lines of business owners. Think of sales professionals as well that you want to get in here and go learn more about what you could potentially be adding into your business to make your life easier. You have 2 options for taking this exam, either online or in a testing facility, just like all the other exams. And similar to the other exams, if you've taken one, there is a 4-step guide for preparing for the exam. And in that 4 steps, you're going to see kind of some of those things that you can get here. So for instance, let's talk about it. Candace, what was your favorite way to kind of get in here and learn about this exam?
So for this one, this one is different from the way that I normally do. So I'm going to tell you both. With this one, I really just kind of I was like, I got this. Like, I have the ML certification, the ML specialty certification, and all those newer certs that just came out related to like ML engineer and stuff. I work on the Q developer team. I'm a member of the AI ML technical field community. So like, I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. So all I did was reviewed that exam guide. That maybe was the only thing that even existed then. And I was like, I got most of this. I'll be fine. Something that's kind of helped me is that you have to realize that I'm an A student, obviously I'm out of school. I feel like I am an A student, and you don't have to get an A on these to pass. Like, you just have to get the 70% or 72% or whatever it is. And so, I read this exam guide and I was like, I got it, at least 70%. And I just like walked in and I took it. So I didn't prepare much. I don't super recommend that for most people, but it is what I did. Normally what I do is I do Tutorials Dojo. That I just take practice tests on Tutorials Dojo and just take those again and again and again and review, especially the ones that were either tricky or the ones that I got wrong. Within Tutorials Dojo, they give you the references that you can go back and check. And so then I just read those. So I don't have fun when I'm doing it necessarily. I just do it brute force and read a lot of docs. I bet yours is a better, more fun approach. What do you do?
So I have to gamify it for myself. I have to do something where learning by doing. I do not have the same role as Candace. So my role is mainly between customers, business and technical sides, being what I call a mediator between the two. So I don't get to get my hands dirty in the console as much. So from that perspective, what I tend to do is use some of our tools and play what we call game-based learning. For those of you who don't know, we're actually doing an entire series on this for AWS Card Clash. And that is the game learning that I've been utilizing most. And that is specifically for infrastructure. So when you look at this specific learning way, for me, I like this because when I'm learning this, I'm actually looking at what it looks like, but also looking at what it should look like. So it gives you a score. You can have fouls. You can actually go through and you're looking at a board that just looks like architecture. You're putting the components through, like what we call it, bedrock, foundation models. We're putting in our lambdas where necessary. We're going through the architectures, which really helps me understand how to best fit use cases. In addition to this, I also love using our labs. So if you are a lab person that wants to do it in the consult because it makes you just get there that much better, you can utilize those different labs. So this is the standard exam prep for the AI practitioner. And this has a lot of different things within it, labs included. And currently, this is still free as of today. So I will pop this into our chat. Feel free to utilize this and go in there. This will give you a wide variety of ways that you can learn it, but also giving you a variety of like learn by doing. You're going in here and getting the specifics, doing some reading in between. And with these labs that are in here too, you can really dive into specifics of, okay, let me set up structure for this specific chatbot. So RAG chatbot was one of the ones that I've done. Let's dive deeper into large language models and understanding the concepts behind them. So what's really nice about this is you're not just learning the material, the words, you're also learning how to apply it in your everyday life. So if you're on the business side of the house, you can then talk to your tech teams a little bit better. But if you're on the tech side of the house, you can help articulate it to the business team at a level where they may understand it a little bit better with not techifying it too much. So I think they're my two. The other one that I did use is I do use Dojo. And what I do is just do my practice exams in there. And I found that I was a little bit weak in one of my domains. So I took that domain and then went to Simulearn. Have you ever played Simulearn before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so Simulearn is kind of interesting because it's based off of different scenarios that you would run into in real life. And it walks you through how to solve the problem in a lab. And then it gives you a lab to set up. And then you go in the lab with no prompts and basically set it up yourself. You can hit tips and tricks and things like that if you get stuck. But then you go back and have it check your lab and see if you've completed it correct. So I like that one a little bit more as I'm trying to dive deep into something, because if I need to really understand it and do it myself without too much guidance, I like that you get a guide or you can just skip right to the end and go.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't done that, but that sounds like a tool that I would definitely recommend. Because it sounds like you get to do it and then it checks you also. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah. And that's what I do really like that part. I also know there's one more free tool that I recently found. And I do not know who owns this, but thank you to whoever built this. It is the Party Rock application, and it's an exam AWS certification practice question generator. So it helps generate practice questions and then explains the answers if you got it right or wrong.
That's awesome. A person on my team created one of these as well and shared it with me to start studying for my next exam. So,
and I know Trevor Spiral has shared a couple of them that actually give you a game plan, which I like because it'll tell you how many weeks up to your exam and kind of what you should be focusing on. That's been helpful too. That means you have to remember when your exam is and not reschedule it, which I did twice to this one.
Yeah, that sounds like a story, Brittany. What you got there?
So with this exam, I took it back in November. I didn't pass, and tail end of my year is really busy, as well as Q1 for my specific role. We tend to do a lot, and we do a lot of goal setting in that time frame too. So it kind of got away from me. I rescheduled the exam. You can only reschedule the exam twice, and then it got to crunch time. The exam was here. I was not allowed to reschedule it, and I didn't want to waste the money that I had already put into it. So I had to really buckle down and get into it. I will say, with all of these resources, the one thing that I wish I would have done a little bit different with this exam specifically is I wish I would have studied the terminology a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I tend to do a lot of learn by doing and not pay attention to the terminology as much, but I will tell you this exam terminology is very important.
Yeah, it's almost like high school studying with flashcards would be the way to go on a lot of this stuff.
I wish I did these more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So we kind of talked through that. We talked a little bit about like our pre-exam jitters, but what would be our personal survival guides is one of the questions I got from someone. So personal exam routines, we went through a little bit. How are we really breaking down planning for unexpected, maybe a thunderstorm wakes you up in the middle of the night and the Wi-Fi is gone that day? So I'm going to talk to you about my exam experience last Friday specifically. I know I kind of teased that in the beginning. So last Friday, if you were in the DC area, you know we got hit. We've been getting a ton of rain. We've had flood warnings. I currently have a lovely rescue dog who is deathly afraid of thunderstorms, who woke me up in the middle of the night. So we were up for a couple hours, went back to bed. Then our Wi-Fi was out. So we're 45 minutes out from the exam. And I am in a little bit of panic mode, Thankfully, I don't live too far from our office. So I booked myself a conference room. I hauled my behind over there, got logged in, got in there. The first thing I did after I finally sat myself in that seat was just take 5 deep breaths because I was overwhelmed. That's one way to spend a night on a day where you have to go into work. It's another whole nother level when you have to take an exam before you can even start your business day. So I don't know, Candace, if you've had any crazy days like that or any testing, we'll call it unexpected plans that have changed you.
You know, a little bit. Something that I did, I think it was before my ML specialty. I'm pretty sure that was the one. I just had to recertify that one. Exams are typically valid for 3 years. I think that's right. Check me. Okay. And so that one was going to expire right around now. So I just went ahead and I took it about a month ago, recertified, all good. But what I didn't realize, I scheduled it. I take my exam at about 10 o'clock in the morning because then I have been caffeinated. I'm not a morning person. But the issue for me, but I didn't check like my personal calendar and work calendar, is I had a concert the night before. I go to a lot of live shows. And so it was one of those things where it was like, okay. And I typically drink a little bit of alcohol at the live shows and you stay up until like midnight. And so it was one of those things where I had to be like, okay, I'm not canceling the show. I'm not going to reschedule because my calendar is all filled up already. And so I just had to be a little bit mindful when I went to that show to not go quite as hard as normal. Make sure I don't think I drank that night. If I did, it was like 1. And so just one of those things, at least I recognized it beforehand, but it's not like a big thunderstorm or something like that. And that's another, and the Wi-Fi going out. That's a reason I don't want to do it in my own home. Also, look, I work in my living room and I'm not going to show you my desk, but my desk is a disaster. So it would just be too hard for me to be able to do that at home. So yeah, sometimes personal calendar and work calendar, I think I need to do a better job of keeping those in sync. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch it into the exam. So you're in the exam and you're tackling tricky questions. What is your personal way about not losing your cool or stressing?
So I'm not typically a stressed out person. I do get jittery and like a little bit worked up, but then when I'm in there, like I feel like I kind of zone in on that old school computer and I'm just there in my little like cubicle thing. So if I hit a question that I don't know, I write it down. They give you that little like piece of, it's not a paper, but like laminated paper that you can write on. And so I write down the number, and normally where I get stuck is between 2 answers. I'm rarely on like looking at one where I'm like, holy buckets, I have no idea. Occasionally those happen, but I write down the number and then I write the 2 that I think that it is. And then underline the one that I'm a little bit more sure that it is, mark it for follow-up and just keep moving. So my philosophy around it all is to like do your best when you first see it and then just mark it for follow-up and just keep on moving. Like don't get stuck. I'm always worried about getting all the way through it. I don't know why. I've only almost run out of time one time. I think it's on the SA Pro exam. Is that the one? I think that was the one that took up the most amount of time, but I just try not to sit on it for too long. Just make a decision and keep going, which is kind of how I live my life also. No.
See, we're opposite on that. So I have to tackle it a little bit different. I worked with a coach back when I was taking the PMP project manager professional exam. And one of the things that she taught me was take a deep breath and read from the bottom up. So read the last multiple choice question and up and up and up, then read the question. And then make your choice. So what it kind of does is sets your mind of like, okay, these 2 answers are similar. These 2 answers are similar. Oh. Then you read the question. You've already narrowed it down to 2 then.
Yeah.
And then I know in the AWS exams, it's tricky because you need to really find out what those keywords are, which one is least operational overhead or which one is most cost effective. So I always narrow in on those words to then go from a bottoms up perspective. So I read all of my exams kind of upside down, I guess.
That makes sense. I do more of that on like the SA Pro, like whatever. I think it's SA Pro and DevOps Pro. Like the questions are kind of, when I see a question that's super long, I get a little bit overwhelmed and I do kind of just scan it for what am I looking for? Cost effective. Okay. And then you'll know, or real time versus near real time. Kinesis stuff. You know which ones you can eliminate really quickly from that sort of thing. So I think I do a little bit of that, but not enough in detail. And like you said, then you can kind of get it down to 2 answers. And I like to like take a little note to be like, okay, they said near real time. So that could be kinesis, fire hose, and that sort of thing. Different exam. Sorry to talk about kinesis. I don't think there was any kinesis on this one.
No, not on this one. I think that's one of the out of scope items, which you will see on the exam guide.
Yeah.
So are there any mantras that you use when you get in a tough spot? I know my last exam, taking it in the office, somebody accidentally walked in my conference room, which can get you disqualified from an exam. But thankfully they did not say anything and they backed right out. It's just it was one of those days where I'm like, I don't know if I passed or failed. But any mantras to get back from something like that, if somebody disrupts the testing center or if somebody's breathing heavy next to you? I know it's a question that people ask all the time.
Oh, those things are kind of annoying. Luckily I'm a mom and I had my kids very young, and so I've been programming with a baby on my lap it was a while ago. So I can kind of put those sort of things out, but one of the last exams I took, there was someone who he was like talking to himself, like whispering under his breath to read the questions, and that did kind of take me for a loop, and it's really hard to tune it out when you're trying. It's a silent room almost, except for this guy talking under his breath. And I just kind of did my best to tune it out. And anytime I feel a little bit stuck, I do the Dory, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. I know that sounds silly, but that is like almost like the little engine who could. But that's sort of a thing that I repeat in my head so that I can tune out a little bit more. I know that probably sounds silly, but it's hard. They do provide, no, it's not headsets, little earplugs for in the room, and you can put those in. I've just never taken the time to actually open those up and do all the thing. I just do my best to tune it out mentally. Yeah.
And sometimes the headphones can be just as annoying as everything else. So I know it's tough that way.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've never had someone walk in while I was taking exams. So that one really threw me. And I was like, okay, what are we going to do now? And I'm like, proctor, please don't get on and yell at me and tell me I'm DQ'd. I'm like, I have 15 questions left. So I just did one of those. I took a big sighing breath and just kind of read the question from the bottom up again to restart myself. And then tried to stay as focused as possible, because they're the things that are out of our control, but definitely happen. So you just gotta roll with the punches sometimes.
Yeah.
So it rattled me. Not going to say it didn't, because that was a fun one. I will say I've taken many exams in my 15-year career. Last Friday was the most testing of my patience. I think I texted you afterwards and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's done. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything.
You also went camping or something like right after that. And so that's a nice, like, this is not on our list of questions. How do you celebrate afterwards? Because I always treat myself. What do you do?
So I tend to treat myself in some way, shape, or form. I put out a reward. So it may be like, for instance, I need to upgrade my cell phone. So my last exam, not this one, I basically said, if I pass this exam, I'll go upgrade my cell phone.
Yes.
So I can go pick out a fun new case. I can have fun picking the color of the phone, whatever it may be. This past one, though, because it was Mother's Day weekend, I had actually had plans with my parents. It was their 33rd wedding anniversary and Mother's Day weekend in the same trip. So we were going camping anyway. So I needed to relax. But then at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I got the "you passed." So it was just like I read it on the phone and I'm like, you won't believe this. Kind of like with everybody around. And we were all excited for it. And then had a cocktail, decompressed after that day. And it's really good. I've also done like just take myself to dinner, because you spend so much time studying and prepping. You really need to take that moment to check in with yourself, have that moment. I've scheduled massages for myself after the exam, even with not knowing if I've passed or not sometimes, just to get the stress out.
You deserve it. Whether you passed or not, you deserve a massage. Yeah.
Man, massages are the best things.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm getting
anything special you've done lately? Because you've been taking quite a bit between your research and almost getting your rose gold jacket.
Yeah, I typically, so if I take it early enough, I don't drink caffeine. Caffeine is a very important part of my life, but I drink a cup or two a day and not before. I don't want to have too much beforehand. But if I take my exam early enough that I finish before noon, I'll go and get like a Starbucks or some like foofy fancy coffee. That's a thing that I can do like right afterwards, or I'll go out to eat like for a lunch or that sort of thing. Schedule a happy hour that evening, even before you know that you've done it or not. For the hard ones, I'll do something super special and be like, I get a new pair of shoes. Kind of like your phone thing, but like I'm gonna go shopping and I'm gonna give myself this budget. But I think it's important to reward yourself. It also helps to keep you kind of motivated to keep doing them. So I don't know what I'm going to give myself this next time, besides getting that jacket. That'll be very exciting. But I think it's really important to focus on like treating yourself and making sure that you are pampering yourself after you go through all of that stress.
And I think it's if you pass or you fail. Because,
Yeah,
I mean, even with failing, you still need to celebrate the fact that you went up and took a hard exam. And yes, you did not pass it yet. And I will
right.
say yet. Underline, bold, italics, all of the stuff to that word yet.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think we talk enough about the failures because they're still failing forward because you've gotten yourself a little bit more ready. Now you have that cooling off period of 14 days before you can reschedule, where you can reflect back on what's gone well, what you want to change, and how you're going to re-attack that exam.
yeah.
Um, so staying on that same win of passing the exam, how has passing this exam, we'll say, Candace, I have two-part question for you, impacted work life for you? And then also, what exam has impacted you the most? We'll do two parts.
Hmm. Okay, so for this one, I think that this one is much more, I'd say, Gen AI focused as opposed to the ML specialty and the ML engineer and those sorts of things. And Gen AI is definitely a hot topic, as we've all heard of I don't know, last 2 years or whatever. It's been like
Mhm.
the hot topic. So this one was good for me, almost like the flashcard sort of things, to really make sure that I really, really understand those terms and I can use those terms effectively. I would say that's probably the best like outcome from that. I also got like the early adopter badge, which is the first time I've gotten one of those. That was cool. Um, so this one, I really liked the fact that I got the early adopter badge and I know how to use the words in the proper way. And now in my current job with Q Developer, it's helping developer productivity built on top of Gen AI. So it's good to understand those underlying things and just kind of understanding those words and terminology and things like that. And then the second part of the question was something about a different exam. Tell me that one again.
What's been your most impactful one so far?
Oh, pr- hmm.
Mhm. I knew
So
this is going to be a hard one for you.
it is hard. So I think, let's see, I'm going to answer with two. So the ML specialty, machine learning specialty, was really important because that is how I got into the technical field community where I can work with other customers that aren't my customers and help them properly use whatever AI ML service. So that's how I got into, we call it a TFC, technical field community, which is a requirement. So that one was very impactful for that reason. It also then led to some of my like passion projects around ML ops, responsible AI. And so I started getting a little bit more detailed under ML specialty. And so that one was helpful. I think though the SA Pro was the hardest one besides the one that I failed. So, and have to retake the networking cert, but I don't have that one yet. SA Pro was really good for building up my confidence because that test was really hard and it tests you pretty darn deep as far as your understanding of the minute differences between the different services and things like that. So I think I think both of those together, but probably as I'm listening to myself, ML specialty was the one that I should have picked. Yeah.
Hey, they both have impacts. They all
They
have
do.
impacts in some way, shape, or form, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, all right. So I will say what it's done for me is just giving me some more, we'll call it credibility and some more things to lean on, different scenarios that I haven't come across yet that now I can utilize in my back pocket when I'm talking to our customers and going through them. Um, I think it's interesting though, because in life, I've been doing a lot of generative AI for different things. So, whether it's programming for work specifically, or if it's working on, for instance, some of the programming I'm doing in my house. So, Candace kind of giggles at me when I say this. My house is pre programmed pretty much. I have some Raspberry Pis that'll actually close and open the shades, and different light things going on, security system, above and beyond just your plug and play items. So nerding out in that factor has been a little bit more fun now, learning more of the code there, diving deeper into Q Developer, which has been one of my fun areas recently. Haven't cracked into SageMaker yet, though. I will say SageMaker intimidates me a bit. So I need to take the time to learn more about it. I think because Bedrock, Q Developer, Q for Business are more plug and play. I just got to get ready to dive in at that 200 level, which I know is your cup of tea. So we might have to do that offline.
Yeah, I'll help you. And you can use Q Developer and SageMaker notebooks. So there you go.
Yeah, that's true. So any exciting projects you're working on, Candace, that you want to talk about when it comes to, we'll call it generative AI or AI ML in general right now?
Oh my gosh, that's almost all that I do right now because I'm new in this role for Q developer. I've just been building and playing with stuff. And so this is all within my day job, basically, which is really nice that this is my day job. But one of the things that so I want to talk about two things. One thing that I just recently built is it's just a daily digest email that I get delivered to me every single day that tells me about different it searches across the internet, tells me about different posts about Q developer and some of the competitors so that I can kind of keep up with the space and just keep up with it. And so I built a little app using Q developer that does that for me. But the Gen AI piece of it that I would add in there besides using Q developer was that I was getting a lot of repeated results or like cross posts, like reposts and things like that. And so now what I've added is I send it to the summary, gets sent to Bedrock to check for repeats and duplicates, and also provides a relevance score. So
Nice.
that's just a thing that I've been trying to do to keep up in my day job. Like the space is moving so fast. And another thing that I'm really excited about that I've been working on too is around accessibility, like website accessibility. WCAG is what it's called, Website Content Accessibility Guidelines. And I've been using Q Developer to help make front-end code more accessible. There are guidelines in place. All websites, whether you know this or not, like they're supposed to have keyboard navigation and alt text and all of these sorts of things defined in the WCAG, which sounds silly, but it's defined in WCAG. And so I've been putting together a whole accessibility suite around how we can test the code before it gets deployed using open source tools, how we can use Q to fix the code for us and different things like that. So those are two things that I've been working on for work that I think are pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mine isn't exciting like that.
Oh,
But I did create something when I was preparing, and you'll laugh at this. I took in all of my scores and studying from the exam and fine tuned my own model to then be able to better test my knowledge.
oh,
So the last day, I didn't take any more standard practice exams. I only took custom practice exams.
that's awesome.
So
Okay.
a little bit fun. We've
Yeah.
also done RAG chatbots, but that's been like, I would say, old news at this point. We've been doing them since last year for my role. So not anything new. All right, Candace, anything else before we jump into homework and what's next on the channel?
Not that I can think of. I want to talk about what comes next on the channel because I just posted about it and my LinkedIn keeps buzzing at me. So that's where I want to go next. But yeah, what do you got? Anything else?
I do have a surprise for the team. So I did put it in the chat. Right now, there is a certification challenge for 2025, and it goes until May 21st at 5 p.m. PST, where you can get 50% off your foundation or associate exams. So if you want to take this exam, you know how earlier I said it's $100, but it's not really $100 right now. You can take the exam for $50 today.
Awesome.
You go to the page, feel free to check that out, register, and then go to town, get 50% off and enjoy. Hopefully you use our guides and you come back and tag us in your past stores or message us on LinkedIn if you have any questions about it. But yeah, that's the only thing left I had to share from a homework standpoint. But what's coming next? Because I'm pretty excited about this next week.
Yeah. Next week I'll be on 2 episodes of She Builds. The one that we have on Thursday is we're gonna have one of the Golden Jacket recipients named Maida on our show next week to talk about her journey. Like, what did she do to study to get this Golden Jacket? Which, by the way, we kind of keep talking about it, but just in case you don't know, this is like a legendary thing. You'll see people at reInvent wearing their, it's kind of tacky, gold jacket. And that means that they've gotten all of the certifications. So there are 12 or 13 active right now. I have 13, but some of them have been deprecated. So anyways, there's a ton of certifications. And so next week we're going to be talking about more best practices for how you study and how you kind of identify which ones are tougher and how you get over testing anxiety. So it's a little bit like this, just a little bit more broad on how we study and prepare for these exams, what the Golden Jacket means, and all of those sorts of things. So hopefully you can watch our show next week as well on Thursday at, I believe it's 10 a.m. Central. So that should be a good one.
Just popped it in the chat so folks can go and hit attend and it'll give you a reminder. You can put it on your calendar.
Good.
Oh, we got a question in the chat. So how do I do the certifications? How do they build on each other, i.e. becoming qualified for like an AWS DevOps role? Since you've taken more of them, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we could talk about, we have a whole suite related to machine learning. So that one, it's a nice progression. But what I would recommend is when you're starting this journey, start with some of the practitioner tests, cloud practitioner or AI practitioner. Start there, get your confidence up. And then the one that you probably want to consider taking after that would be the SA Associates. It's a broad overview of most of the AWS services that takes you pretty deep, but not all the way deep. And then I think the question was specifically about becoming a DevOps engineer. So definitely still, I think most people should still take the SA Associates. And then from there, you can start to branch off. So you could go deeper into the machine learning, like ML engineer and then ML specialty. Awesome. If you're doing DevOps, I would say you do SA Associate, then maybe SysOps, and then there's a DevOps Pro. So that would be kind of how I would address that particular journey. Is there specific paths?
Yes. So
Nice.
There are some paths here specifically. I will tell you though, for every AWS employee, what's the first exam we get done, Candace?
I did SA Associates. I just did Cloud Practitioner last week.
SA Associates, and that is across the board pretty much at AWS. We all start with that exam.
Yeah.
But it really depends on where you're at in your career too. So are you a career changer? Are you established in your career? Are you trying to make a change? So there's definitely some guidance out there. If you go to the certification page, which I will pop into the chat now, you can kind of pick through that too. I mean, if you want to pick our brains too, feel free to reach out to us. We're going different directions. So my next exam is actually a specialty exam. So yeah, I did SAA now and then the AI practitioner, and then I'm going specialty. But I'm doing a specialty exam specifically because I feel like that's my biggest opportunity for my current role that could really help me. I was going to do SA Pro, but I'm like, it's not what I need at this moment.
Yeah. Which one are you doing?
Security.
Oh, I like that one. I think that's a great one, and everyone should take that one too. That's a good one. Yeah.
Well, security stays zero, and I feel like more and more in the environments that we're in, it's the most important. And I feel like I want more breadth of knowledge there. I want to be able to dive deeper. I want to be able to help more. So
awesome.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. So next week, tune in to hear specifically more about that. And feel free, if you want to jump in that and ask kind of about the paths that are taken, you can hear from the folks that are on that call. And then also remember, by May 21st, enrolling to get that 50% off is extremely awesome. They've done this a couple times, but there were a couple years where we didn't have it at all. So I would say if you're thinking about an exam, here's that little extra push for you to really go and hit it out of the ballpark. But with that, Candace, it was nice to be back with you. I know most of 24 we were together, but it's been a crazy year for me.
I know.
I haven't been on
It's
as much.
crazy sometimes, but it's always great hosting with you. I love chatting and all that sort of stuff. And congrats on your exam. That's
Thank
great.
you. Congrats
Yes.
on all yours too, and the research. I'm going to have to do SAA soon for research, so that'll be fun.
It's okay. We have all the study guides. We know what to do now.
We do. We have our survival guides too. Awesome. So with that, this was another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America, and we had a pleasure chatting with you. See y'all soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.